Madam Yusuf. Welcome and thank you for joining us once again in this another Sunday evening. And as usual, on the Teen Talk Show, we hold discussions on issues preventing the society from functioning at an optimal level. Do watch us live every Sunday on our Facebook page at Welkia TV and do subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on our Facebook page at Welkia TV. Today on the program, we are going to hold discussions on various human activities affecting an ecosystem. We are going to talk about how human activities are damaging the ecosystem and some important measures on how these conditions do affect our ecosystem. So to begin with, first off, we have to know what ecosystem actually means. So basically, ecosystem can be explained as encompasses all living things and non-living things to form up and the environment. So with the living things, we can talk about the animals, the plants, and the microorganisms. And with the non-living things, we can talk about the earth, climate, soil, weather, and the atmosphere. So all of these encompasses the ecosystem to form up to make up the environment. So literally, ecosystem is the interconnected systems where living things and non-living things function. So now we are going to talk about some various human activities which affect the ecosystem. First off, we want to talk about agriculture. So with agriculture, there are three forms of agricultural practices which literally damages the ecosystem, or should I say the environment. We can talk about the destruction of wildlife, the global warming and climate change, and also the aquatic resources degradation. With agriculture, we can basically say agriculture it is the cultivating of crops and the rearing of animals. But in this process, it has its own negative effects in terms of damaging the ecosystem. So, for example, like the destruction of wildlife and the global warming and climate change. The rate of deforestation affects the ecosystem by raising global temperatures and disrupting cycles of condensation and evaporation. So when there is an global warming and climate change, it tends to affect condensation and evaporation. And also the aquatic resources degradation, we can talk about the use of fertilizers. Basically, it is the injection of vast amount of phosphorus and nitrogen nutrients into soil, lands, and water system due to fertilizer use have created far-reaching effects, altering the ecosystem and rapidly expanding aquatic dead zone. So the misuse, or should I say, the improper use of fertilizers literally damages the aquatic dead zone, and also it also has an adverse effect on the ecosystem. So our first point for today is the agriculture, which has three forms, which is this destruction of wildlife, global warming and climate change, as well as the aquatic resources degradation. We further want to move on to the deforestation. So deforestation can be explained as the cutting down of trees, or should I say the removal, the stand of trees is removed, converting the land to a non-forest use, and this changes the ecosystem drastically and results in dramatic loss of biodiversity. So when there is an increase in the removal of trees for non-forest use, also has an adverse effect on the ecosystem. For example, deforestation can be the result of timber harvesting or of clearing land of agriculture, commercial, and residential use. But there is something to take note of. The social impact can include the displacement of indigenous people. Recent studies have attributed that deforestation to the increase of wildlife in areas like the Amazon wildfires, and equally distracted even more so displacing both people and entire species. So deforestation has an effect on biodiversity loss, as well as it has social impact and can include the displacement of indigenous people. So our second point for today is deforestation. We'll further move on to overpopulation and overconsumption. So overpopulation can be explained as the rapid increase in the population growth, or should I say the rapid increase in the population size. And overconsumption is also the rapid production of food for consumption purposes. But one of the most severe effects of overpopulation is the degradation of the environment, because as the number of population increases, definitely people need land for residential purposes, for industrial purposes, and for farmland and for farming purposes. So as the population increases, land, or should I say forest, would be has to be sacrificed for farmland purposes or industrial uses. And increase in population results in the more clear cutting, resulting in severe damage in ecosystems. And also, another issue in human consumption, large amount of resources for their own needs. Some examples include the mining of natural resources like coal, the hunting and the fishing of animals for food, and the clearing of forests for urbanization and wood use. So the more we tend to increase in numbers, the more we tend to demand for food consumption, the more we also have an adverse effect on the ecosystem in terms of our mining activities and also our exploitation activities for food consumption purposes. So overpopulation and overconsumption as an one of the human activities which is literally damaging the ecosystem. And we can further talk about the emission of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. So when we talk about emission of carbon dioxide, we are talking about some components like the methane and the hydrofluorocarbons, which are which literally damages the atmosphere because humans include through the consumption of fossil fuel and the use of man-made products. So with this, the consumption of fossil fuel to produce energy in a recent study shows that the consumption of fossil fuel to produce energy in in the year between 1870 and 2013 produced approximately 400 billion tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And today, carbon dioxide levels are said to be surprisingly higher than ever in history. But what actually happens is when carbon dioxide is increased into the atmosphere, it has an effect on the global temperatures because global temperatures are tend to rise, contributing to sea level rise and extreme weather events like heat waves, flooding, tsunami, and drought. So we can the obvious factors, uh, the increase in carbon emission of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, it causes some of the, the, the the natural disasters such as the flooding, the heat waves, the tsunamis, and the drought. And the sea level rise and extreme weather events have in turn altered ocean and land ecosystem, impact food chains and biodiversity, and intensified desertification. So what this actually means is when the carbon emission increases, it has an adverse effect not just on the ecosystem but on the environment as a whole. And therefore, this is also one of the human activities damaging the ecosystem. And we can also talk about the overhunting and overexploitation as our fifth point for today. The overhunting and overexploitation includes the natural resources through activities like overfishing and mining have caused a reduction in the number of varied plant and animal species. In other words, the diverse existence of animals and plant species in different habitats has been widely affected by overhunting and overexploitation. So these human activities do not give room for example, replacement, growth, or new development of already exploited or harvested products. So in this sense, we can consider overexploitation of food, for example, fishing, over exploitation of natural resources like in the mining activities, and this also has an adverse effect uh, on the ecosystem. So basically, these are the five human behaviors which is damaging the atmosphere, the ecosystem. But we can further talk about some human behaviors, which include plastic production, destruction of the reefs, production of black carbon, genetic modification, and also invasive species. So in all ecosystem, implies both living and non-living, which makes up the environment, which include animals, plants, and microorganisms. And also with the non-living things, we can talk about the earth, climate, soil, weather, and the atmosphere. And with the human activities, I did mention about the agriculture, which involves the cultivation of crops and also the rearing of animals, which also has an adverse effect on the ecosystem. I did mention about the three forms of agricultural practices, such as the destruction of wildlife, global warming and climate change, as well as the aquatic resources degradation. With the global warming and climate change, we did mention about the rate of deforestation that affects the ecosystem by rising global temperatures and disrupting the cycle of condensation and evaporation. With the aquatic resources degradation, we did talk about the misuse of um, fertilizers. So basically, the injection of vast amount of phosphorus and nitrogen nutrients in the in natural soil, land and water systems due to fertilizer use have created far-reaching effects, altered ecosystem, and also rapidly expanded aquatic and dead zones. And I further talked about the deforestation activities, which is basically the stand of trees is removed, cutting the land and the non-forest, cutting, converting the land into a non-forest use. So deforestation can be the result of timber harvesting or of clearing land of agriculture, commercial and residential use. And the social impact can include the displacement of indigenous people, but recent studies have attributed deforestation to the increase of wildfires in areas like the Amazon wildfires and equally distracted even more so, displacing both people and entire species. I further talked about the overpopulation and overconsumption. With overpopulation, we mentioned about the rapid increase in the number of people, or should I say, the increase in population size, and also with overconsumption, the rapid increase in the production of food for consumption use. But another issue is human consume large amounts of resources of their own needs. So some example include the mining of natural resources like coal, the hunting and fishing of animals for food, and also the clearing of forests for urbanization and wood use. This also has an adverse effect on the ecosystem. And I did mention about the emission of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. So with this, we are talking about the combustion of fossil fuel to produce energy. And I did give a reference with in the year 1870 and 2013 produced approximately 400 billion tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. But today, carbon dioxide levels are said to be rising higher than ever in history. As a result, global temperatures has increased and contributing to sea level rise and extreme weather heat waves, flooding, tsunami, and drought. And this also has an adverse effect on generally the entire environment. And I did mention about the overhunting and overexploitation. With overhunting, I did explain that when we tend to uh, overhunt animals, for example, fishing and overexploitation of mining, have caused a reduction in the number of varied plant and animal species. In other words, the diverse existence of animals and plant species in different habitats has been widely affected by overhunting and overexploitation. And these human activities do not give room for replacement, regrowth, or new development of already exploited or harvested products. So with overhunting and overexploitation, we are talking about when humans tend to overhunt these animals or overexploit natural resources, which tend to lead to a factor or a situation whereby we do not have the capacity to also have new or renewable sources of those animals or minerals which have been overexploited. And I did mention some other causes or some other human behaviors affecting the ecosystem, which include the plastic production, the destruction of reefs, the production of black carbon, the genetic modification, as well as the invasive of species. So basically, that is all for today, and I think basically we have an um, we have get the insight of various human activities affecting the ecosystem. But on this note, I do want to inform all viewers about an excellent opportunity to showcase your brand and businesses, because your inclusion with Teen Talk Show will give your brand exposure to other businesses, uh, individuals, or other organizations and other coalitions. So you can be a sponsor or a co-sponsor of this program by visiting our Facebook page, or you can contact any of our administrative numbers or email on our Facebook page at Walkia TV, and you can sponsor any of our programs on Walkia TV to gain exposure to other organizations, individuals, or other coalitions. And on this note, I think that's it for today. I'm Madam Yusuf. Do stay tuned next week for another exciting episode of the Teen Talk Show. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and for more educational content like this. That's it for today. I'm Madam Yusuf. Have a great day.